Welcome, welcome, welcome. We were having a laugh back here because Rodney just learned what RBF means.
Well, I found out about a month ago, but I'm not up to these little sayings like you guys. We started off by, I was mentioning, we were looking at ourselves getting situated, and I just recognized these two baby faces. Both of you got such baby faces. Now, yours is hidden by your get-up.
By my not baby face. But
I was talking about that with my girlfriend today. She goes, she was talking about how they were mentioning that at work. She's like, I feel like I have one. I was like, let's see. And she like goes, like, I was like, you don't have one.
Well,
self-conscious.
Very seldom do you say a female has a baby face, but it certainly applies to men, and you guys are the poster child for baby faces. But then that mind takes over, right? That the extreme intelligence.
Good save, Rodney. Good save.
Keep us young. I'll stay young forever. At least look like that. I feel like I'm old. What were you saying we were going to talk about before we got in? We're going to get into tariffs and how it impacts the local economy. We have Rodney here with us every Friday, whenever he can make it and he don't skip out on us. But you are currently economic development coordinator for a county, and then you've had some experience as a mayor. You've had some experience in business and stuff. And so we're going to dive into tariffs and how it affects a local economy more so than just a global impact as it's being kind of preached now, right? Because when we look at the stock market, all we're looking at there is globalism. Right. You know, red bad, green good. That's all we can think. So we'll get into tariffs and how that kind of impacts the local market. But what were you saying we were going to talk about before this?
We'll dive into just about anything. I did want to mention, because this piggybacks off one of our last conversations. Just last night, sometimes I prep for this and sometimes I just, follow you guys' lead. But I was looking on a podcast, and the podcast was labeled Trumpland. So obvious. What would you anticipate that I'd be listening to?
Some MAGA hat wearing, beard, Duck Dynasty looking guys.
And that's what I anticipated as well. But once I got on there, and then I quickly realized it was so strategic. But these were two gals, and they were extreme liberal. But you didn't know it. You had to glean that throughout the entire podcast. They went down to North Carolina and they visited some small rural towns, farming communities, and they set it up that all farmers, for the most part, supported Trump in this thing. So at this juncture, I still didn't know that they were liberals. But when they got into conversations and started talking to the farmers, and very politely, I mean, they were very appealing, to be quite frank with you. They dealt into the tariffs, and the farmers held the ground, but it became obvious that they were just kind of setting them up, trying to put doubt in their minds. The farmers held the line, but Josh, you and I were talking prior to coming online here. We've been saying over and over, the Democrats have lost their way. It's almost like we're trying to give them a game plan. Well, to me, this was a sneak preview and somewhat of a game plan. You've probably never yelled a liberal into coming to your side. That's probably never happened, right?
No.
Yeah. And nor has a liberal ever yelled you over to their side. So it looks like their approach is just to slide in and be very kind with the words. And that seems to be the approach. Now, they didn't win any of these farmers over, but I'll tell you, they resonated with one another. And so, let's quit giving them game plans, because to me, it appears that the game plan is going to be a different approach. Easing in and get them to walk with you instead of yelling. So we got to be careful about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's something like, when I was in college and I was really big into Christian apologetics, that was a tactic that you typically saw a lot with these videos. It's like, it goes like, evidence for the historical Jesus ? And then you watch it and then it's like, okay. And then you start to realize that they're kind of like setting you up. You know what I mean? It's actually like an atheist YouTube video or something like that. And that was something we had talked about on an earlier podcast, where the conservatives, after Trump won in 2024, they were coming out and saying, see, here's why the left playbook is broken. Here's the problem with the left's playbook. Quit telling them that. Quit telling them what they're doing wrong.
Exactly.
Because then they're gonna adapt. And I mean, it didn't take long. They're already like Trumpland. Exactly. Yeah. Like they reeled you in.
Their
MAGA hat.
Their audience was us. We were the target audience, and hoping that they could switch some folks over. And I think we're going to see more and more of that. To the farmers, and they're all small local farmers, to their credit, though, I mean, they held the line, and because they were the interviewers were saying stuff like, these tariffs, they're really going to hurt farmers more than anybody. Can you believe he's doing this? I mean, that type of talk. But just to not to dominate this whole thing, but I was real proud of one of them because they used the analogy. We've all talked till you're tired of hearing cliche that we're going to have to go through some pain to reset. But the farmer used a great illustration. He said, the pain comes up front, and we're no strangers to that. The pain comes in sowing the seed. I mean, that's the back-breaking work. You sow the seed. If you don't sow the seed, nothing has the potential of happening. But during that course of it growing, you have weather, the equipment that you can afford, fertilizers that you can or cannot afford, the harvesters there's so many other things that you have to do to get there. But they said, we're willing to go through this pain.
How convincing was it?
So, not that I'm an expert, but I've been around a block politically, just like at a young age you guys have. I recognized it right away, but I could see, that housewife that's not in tune to all the elements that we are, to go, well, golly, I like that approach. The approach is appealing. It truly is.
I asked that because when I think of the left and I think of tactics like that, I don't think many of them can pull it off because they're
like to
such
yell.
true believers in that thing, and they can't put on that facade. They have to have their megaphone and scream into it.
It's uncharacteristic, but they did show discipline. They really did. They never got out of character. And I could see how the average person.
Well, maybe they're moderates that are trying to bring people to the left. They're just getting paid a lot of money from somewhere.
No.
Well, I think they probably, like, you've probably seen Charlie Kirk videos. You've seen all these, even videos of people that you wouldn't know or recognize, where they go on college campuses, they do these man on the street type videos, and they very calm and collectively ask liberals, like, well, why do you not like Trump? And they go, well, because he's racist. And they go, well, what has he said that's racist? And then they say something's like, well, that's not actually true. And that was actually something you were seeing a lot coming from the right from that time. Yeah. It sounds like that's kind of the tone they were going for.
That was going to be my conclusion. You just nailed it, my friend. They took a page out of our playbook, and that's what I was going to end with there. They absolutely have seen how some of our folks have gone out, and that has been effective. But, it is uncharacteristic because even our local social media, I see these liberals on Facebook, and Trump's an idiot. I mean, that's just what. And I know these people because it's local social media, and I'm thinking, okay, I know you. I've watched your career. What have you done? I mean, how can you call Trump an idiot with all that he's done? Even the bankruptcies, that's not a negative to me. I mean, don't misunderstand me. Nobody wants to do that, but that's part of business. Look how much he has done. And these folks that are spouting this poison that he's an idiot, that I know, man, they haven't, probably never made over minimum wage, some of them. And I'm not criticizing that. Please don't get me wrong.
Right.
But they have no history of success.
It's like the Jordan Peterson aspect of this thing is you need to clean up your room before you try to fix the world.
So true. And social media, we're all publishers.
Well, I think,
you are talking to the world.
Well, Stone Choir did an episode on this really recently. It's a podcast I listened to from two very intelligent Lutheran guys, but they basically made the argument, which I've kind of made before, but they articulated a little bit better, is that participation is virtuous. And so you need to participate in whatever aspect that is. And social media is the final conclusion of that participation, which is everybody has to have an opinion regardless of if you know what you're talking about or not, or if you have any experience in that or not. And so you can also apply that to voting inside of a democracy because it's virtuous to vote. But yeah, I thought that was a good takeaway that they had, was everybody has to have an opinion because participation is virtuous. And so social media has provided a platform for everybody to say whatever they want to.
And they do.
Even if it's retarded. As Joe Rogan said, that word is coming back. Hard R, retarded, is coming back. But But yeah, I guess we're going to jump into local tariffs a little bit. Josh, you done any business local?
No.
Okay. Maybe you'll have some questions for Rodney then.
All right. Maybe I'll have some answers.
But Rodney's been around the block a little bit. You were mayor a while back. You've run and sold, built up, and maintained a few businesses, mainly in marketing, advertising. But now you're the economic development coordinator. You've also worked with the Inland Port, which is kind of directly in this line of fire of tariffs. I guess maybe we can kick this thing off and just see where the conversation goes. But when we look at the stock market and it says red or it says green, how much effect does that have on a local level? Do we just stop all shipping lanes? Does the inland port just stop working? I mean, that's what it seems like if you look at Twitter or Facebook. You just think that the world just stopped going around because bad thing happened.
Yeah, not at all. That's not my experience at all. You'd mentioned local county contracts me to do their economic development, so I'm very much involved in that. And it is an area where we have an inland port, which is in South Carolina. There's two inland ports, one in Greer that's serviced by Norfolk. The one in Dillon, South Carolina, is by way of CSX, and there are direct connections to our Charleston port. So they're great assets to these cities. But it all deals with export, import, right? And so as of today, I see no effect other than conversation. I do receive a lot of calls, inquiries about doing business in this area because of the realization of moving product at a discounted rate by way of the inland port. And the concern's there, no question. But actual figures put together, it hadn't deterred anybody to date. And I just had a conversation just yesterday with a pretty strong project.
Okay, so coming off of that, we haven't experienced this since early 1900s of having massive tariffs across the globe. I mean, a couple of presidents have pushed tariffs. Reagan pushed tariffs on Harley Davidson to stabilize them. He tariffed any export or import motorcycles so that they can establish that. So the people calling in Reaganomics of free trade. Well, I mean, Reagan was smart enough to at least maintain an American business by using tariffs that way. So, I mean, we haven't really felt anything. It's only been a couple of days. How long would you project to feel something like that? We're inland port in Dillon, South Carolina, and then later on, I guess, into some of the main street stores that we see.
So I do think it'll have almost an immediate impact. I do. Once you see those tariffs kick in, I think it will almost have an immediate impact on all of us. I think it can happen that quickly. But we're yet to see what really is going to be put in place. We really don't know.
So I have a quick question, and I don't want to it's a little bit off topic, but not completely. So I don't want to derail the conversation. So it is a quick one. Yeah. What, China said they're going to be doing reciprocal tariffs to us of 125%. That was the last thing I heard about it. Mm-hmm. I'm actually not sure what we are exporting to China. What are they importing from us? I know we're a huge importer of their, cheap goods. Mm-hmm. What is it, cars?
I think a lot. Well,
go ahead.
I think a lot of what we export to China is more raw material that is then labored through sweatshops and then sent back over here, right? Because the labor is so cheap over there, they can simply just process the thing so much cheaper that it's worth paying for the time and effort and money in shipping from back and forth.
I think, if I remember correctly, I think the tobacco market, which is decreased tremendously in our world.
Thank you, government.
I think China does buy a lot of our tobacco products. Farmers can be hit probably worse than anybody in this whole, the potential. Usually we do, the Congress normally provides a package for them because it is a necessity. Farmers, to me, my dad was a farmer, part-time farmer, but it was full-time because I was always out there. But, those guys deserve a lot of credit. They have so many factors they have to deal with, and on top of these tariffs. So where I'm not big on subsidizing anybody, 1,000% the farmers. 1,000% subsidize those guys, and they're going to need it. They're going to take a blunt of the tariffs, I believe.
Well, I'm perfectly fine with subsidizing farmers. I mean, especially if you're in agrarian country like we are, mainly. Not as much as we used to be, but I'm perfectly fine with subsidizing that. I mean, you have to have that food. I mean, it is a lot of our export.
Soybeans, big market export.
Yep.
And actually, that is probably one of the biggest products moving out of the Dillon Inland Port is soybeans.
Really?
Yeah.
So what other product kind of comes through the port like that?
Metals, scrap metals.
A lot of raw
material. But even like Harbor Freight there, they import. I mean, that's a distribution center, so they actually import product, ready to distribute out.
Okay, so let's say the inland port is there and it's taking these exports in. Maybe they slow down. Maybe we have tariffs and price increase across the board on that. What does somebody like the mayor? Is there anything that somebody on the local level like a mayor can do about it? And then we'll get into kind of your economic development side of things.
Yeah, no, I'm not taking any credit away from the mayor. I was one, and they wear many hats and are very valuable. But at that level, they have no influence.
They just got to accept it.
Yeah, that's outside of their role, so to speak.
Okay, so you're economic development coordinator. You kind of build or at least go look for contracts to bring in factories and whatever else, I guess, for industrial aspects to the city or county. How would that affect people considering building a factory in, let's say, Marlboro? Is that where you're at?
I'm in Dillon.
Okay, you're in Dillon. Yeah. Okay, so what kind of effects would that have, or would they just go somewhere else?
Well, these large corporations.
Or would they look for more inside of the states?
Well, perhaps, and that's the plan to begin with. For manufacturing to come back to the United States, I think that's what the tariffs prompt, or that's what they're set up to do. But again, it's early, but having an inland port is still just such a plus, because that's one way that you can combat tariffs, because you can lower your transportation costs. Usually with a business, your largest expense is usually employees. Your second is usually transportation. So we're talking about a big issue in terms of transportation. So that can help ease the sting off of some of these tariffs. But I don't think it's going to slow down inquiries. People inquire where I'm at quite often because of the inland port to begin with. So I don't think it's going to slow down growth. I'm optimistic in thinking that ultimately these tariffs are going to work in our favor. I mean, I subscribe to what Trump's doing and what he's saying. It's just, not to be cliche, you've heard it 1,000 times, we just know we've got, in this reset, we've got to experience some pain. And I'm willing to do it so you baby faces can have a better life.
We appreciate that, Rodney.
I'm at the end of mine.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't get that. They, like I said earlier, you see red bad, green good on the stock market, and that's all they can think. When people your age should try to at least leave a better country than you came here with, and so I think taking a little pain on the front end is going to be good for the country itself, and especially for your grandchildren, right, and my children. And so I'm willing to take a little bit of hit too.
Yeah, and it to some degree it unites us, at least of those with conservative values. I mean, we're getting stones thrown at us now, so we're going to see what we're made of. Do we hold hands and kumbaya as Republicans, or do we allow them to fracture us like they tried to do with the Trump land? That's going to be their MO. We got to hold the line.
So I want to ask you, Rodney. It seemed like you guys talking about the tariffs and their effects on South Carolina locally in the PD region. That's something you guys, and you especially, would have direct knowledge of. But I want to ask more broadly, how do you feel about Trump's implementation of the tariffs and then just the other day kind of undoing them partially, or like putting a 90-day hold on them?
Yeah.
On Wake Up Carolina, they've talked about this, and a lot of the consensus amongst, MAGA people, Trump heads, is that this was coordinated, this was planned. I'll be honest, like me personally, I'm a little bit unsure. I wanted to get your take on this. How did you take that information?
Kate, been wrong many times before. Been wrong more often than I am right.
No, not you. No.
Although you won't find that documented. So I subscribe to what you said initially. How can this not be part of the game plan? When he came out on day one and just outlaid all these things, this has been in the making for years. I mean, this just didn't unroll. So likewise, I believe in going strong with these tariffs and setting the pace and then backing off to show, look, well, we will negotiate. We're not going to be dictators here. I too think this was a plan from way back. And I think it's a genius plan because he did get everybody's attention. And I think they do know that we're serious, and he's a serious man, and he's got serious people behind him now, that now there's an opportunity to negotiate. So I think this was all predetermined.
You think it was intentional?
I do. Somewhat you do too, or not so much?
Not so much. What do you think?
Well, I think this is Trump's MO, but this is a page taken from the left's playbook where they want to kind of overshoot that thing on politics and more specifically policy, not necessarily tariffs, but there's just general policy. They want to strive for this extreme, and then they kind of crank it back, and then we just accept it. We compromise, right? Yeah. And so that's essentially what Trump's doing with these tariffs. I mean, he wrote an entire book on this, right? The Art of the Deal. This is the whole concept that is portrayed, is that, throw out this crazy number and then try to compromise somewhere in the middle when you end up winning, right? And so this is what the left has done. This is why we've come so far left socially, because of policies that have been implemented in this way. And so I don't know if it was this thing was a specific plan, but there's nothing to say that it's out of the ordinary for someone like Trump to do.
I'll take it a step further, Josh, in your question. Not only do I think it's planned, I think the timing and everything coming out the gate right away and making all these bold moves and things happening, I think that was by design too, because what normally happens, a president gets in there and it's about the third year before they can get any momentum going. The fourth year, maybe things that they've enacted and put into place is starting to fertilize but what often happens is that next administration comes in and everything blossoms for them because of the last one's work. Well, I think Trump said, look, there's going to be no question that the future that's going to be brighter happened. In other words, I don't think you can say, oh, well, that new administration, they're responsible for this.
So you're saying he's only got 4 years.
Yeah, and he's taking
only
advantage
got
of
4
the time,
years.
and there's going to be, in his work, which I believe will prevail, nobody else is going to be able to take credit for, which ain't normally the case, because when it goes over the next administration, even if they hadn't raised a finger, we're under his administration, what's happening.
Or they kind of keep it kind of easy going to get that reelection, and there's no reelection on this go around.
So I'll tell you all this, and I want to get your thoughts on this. This was a conversation Ken Art of Wake Up Carolina and I had off the air, and a little bit on the air, which, like, I was asking him because he's really well read on the economy. He understands business. He's a businessman like you. He gets these kind of things. He understands tariffs and world economic trade. The thing I don't fully comprehend these things other than just a basic level. And what I told him was, what this appears to look like to me is he panicked and he pulled out. And Ken goes, no. Trump's not like you. Trump understands these things. He's a smart guy. This is all intentional. And that might be true, but the point I was trying to make is to the exactly this, where my perspective as someone who doesn't understand, that's what it looks like to people like us. And so admittedly, like, I believe that the, people in charge over in China, they have a greater understanding of U.S. economics than I do. But what does it look like to them, and what does it look like to the rest of us? I think this does look like he panicked a little bit, regardless of whether or not it was intentional or not. And so I wanted to get you guys' thoughts. With that in mind, do you think this looks weak, or do I just need to have it explained to me better? What do you say to that?
No, because your perception is real, right? And you're a reasonable thinking person. Well, you think beyond most, but certainly there's a flock of people like you that thinks the same thing. And how can I say for sure? I can't. I'm not in this. I just think that he's more savvy, more seasoned, more battle tested, that I think he was prepared more than any of us have any idea he was prepared for coming into this thing.
I will say what you said I hadn't considered, that this was like the go as hard as you can and then pull back a little bit to get like the baseline further up. I hadn't considered that.
Before I read off this truth Trump sent out, and specifically for you, Josh, many names you in here. What was I going to say?
Who names him?
He's
Donald
kidding.
Trump does.
He's saying
No,
Trump,
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
tweeted
I'm
at
not
me.
kidding. All right, I'll go ahead and read it. This is Trump on True Social. He says the United States has a chance to do something that should have been done decades ago. Trump wrote on True Social. Don't be weak. Don't be stupid. Don't be a panicking. A new party based on weak and stupid people. So
Don't
he's
be a
calling.
panicking.
Don't be a panicking.
He's,
Now,
he's talking
that
to this
was-
young generation.
In general,
That was before he undid it, though. That was before the 90-day renege.
correct.
So
Don't
I
be
think he
panicking.
was referring to the stock
I
market
think it's
collapse.
a general. I think it's general. I think Trump is someone that is unstable, at least from the perspective of the outsider. And so this is a volatile move. It is volatile in the respect that the stock market doesn't understand what's happening, right? Straight up, straight down, day after day. And it's volatile in that none of our enemies knows what's going to happen. So it's a play to make them compromise, whether they want to or not, because America is the defining nation when it comes to consumerism. So whatever we say essentially goes. Now we might have to eat a couple bucks, but what we say goes with respect to prices.
Yeah, I agree. I almost think that True Social or tweet, whatever you want to call it, was almost too... I think that was almost targeted at boomers who were afraid of their 401k tanking, because, like you said, like
I like to read it
selling,
as it was dedicated to you,
I know
Josh.
you do. I know you do.
just for you, a panicking. I mean, we got Kofefe, we got panicking. You know, Trump's over here inventing new words, and people are mad at him. It's like, dude, we're recreating the English language.
Is better than nothing. The point is I'm not really sure what to make of it. Like a lot of people seem so sure that it was a calculated tactic, and it might be. There's truth to what Zeb said about how Trump, part of his business savvy is that he's unpredictable.
Right.
Even we don't really know what he means by things. Like he came out, Ken played something today about how he came out and he was like, a war on low water pressure. Like he was like, we're attacking all these, we're going after places like Florence that don't take care of their water infrastructure. Where did that come from? That just came out of nowhere.
I can get behind
Oh,
that.
absolutely.
So let me use this analogy, and I've got to put in my one football analogy like I always do. Think of the value of that. If I'm going in and I've got this powerhouse team that we're facing Friday or Saturday, right? The analogy is Trump, right? And I know they're a powerhouse. I know that going in. But they come out and they run this unexpected play that I haven't prepped for, and it gets great yardage. If I got to deal with that all night, I came in with a plan, and yet my opponent is releasing all these different plays that's not characteristic of them. Think of I'm on my heels always. So I think that's what he's implemented against the liberals. And even foreign countries have no idea what's coming next, but I do know that that's a powerhouse team, and I do know they can score. but I have no idea what's coming. Tremendous value in that, guys. Tremendous value in that.
Anything, John?
And the crowd, did y'all just break the huddle on me?
No. Well, Ronnie said he's got a piece out of here a little bit early, so I think it's a good time if you're trying to get out of here.
Yeah,
if you got a few more minutes.
You only paid me for 30 minutes, and I'm not staying beyond. Hey, guys, great to be with you. I know it's going to be a great show.
Anything for Ronnie before he bounces, Josh, on, I guess, local tariffs, the effects?
On local tariffs, I can't think of anything.
Yeah. But no, I appreciate your time.
Y'all have a great weekend. Good to see
sir.
y'all as always, and I'll see you next Friday, okay?
All right,
sir.
boss
All right,
man.
see you.
Talk to you then.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Go to intermission now.
Intermission.
Adios.
Yeah, the
Watch
dog
out
should
for
be
those
inside.
dogs.
No, he should be inside. All right, so
He's funny, man. I love it.
yeah, I like
I
Ronnie.
like because
good.
for those of y'all watching at home, Zeb's got some big ass dogs, and Rodney doesn't like dogs. So I understand if I weren't a fan of dogs being afraid. You've got a what's it called?
Great Dane,
Great Dane. Yeah,
big old horse.
half a horse. Yeah,
But
that's crazy.
yeah, I think it was intentional. I don't know if it was planned per se, but I do think Trump knows what he's doing a little bit when it comes to trade. He's been around for long enough.
I don't think it's what the liberals are saying to where he's just like flying by the seat of his pants. Like some people are coming out and saying he came up with these numbers randomly and then the next day implemented them. I don't buy that, but I don't believe, and I hate to say this without Rodney here to kind of back himself up, but this idea that I don't think Trump has been planning every aspect of these tariff wars and the things about his administration in those 4 years he was no longer president.
I think y'all touched on something like that this morning, where he has an idea of where he wants to go, and then he takes it that direction.
Yeah.
I mean, I loosely agree with you. I mean, you can't plan everything when it comes to people's reactions, right? And so, yeah, obviously everything isn't planned, but I think there's enough planned that, I mean, he's had 4 years. Well, let's say he's had 3 years to kind of make his comeback plan. I think, how much could you plan into the future if you're working for 4 years on being a president, right? I mean, I think I could at least get 2.5 months of planning in.
This is what I said to Ken the other day on the show that he liked so much, was I basically said, what Trump does is Trump has goals. Trump has like everyone has these set goals, but then they formulate plans on how to achieve them. And this is what you and I had criticized about Republicans and a lot of conservatives so much, is they set a plan and they get focused on step one. It's a lot harder than they imagine to achieve step one. And then their whole careers are dedicated to step one. And then what do you know? They're in the Senate for their entire lives. Step one is no longer relevant to the original goal. They lose sight of the goal in favor of the plan. Trump is the opposite of that. That's why we liked him so much, is he is focused on the goal. But I do think the negative aspect of that is at times he's not as strategic as he should be. Granted, I agree with you. He's a bulldozer, and he needs to be a bulldozer. I think the tariffs and the numbers on that he came up with for the original set on Liberation Day, they were very sloppy. They weren't as good as they could have been, but it's like, screw it. Just do it, and we'll figure it out later.
Yeah. Well, I think, you make the point that they're stuck on step one. I think a lot of times they're intentionally stuck on step one.
Well,
they don't want to get to step two.
Yeah, I think that's true too.
Just kick the can down the road, get reelected, and keep collecting lobbying money. Mm-hmm. Vote. I'm here to vote. Maybe I'll author a bill, but inevitably it's just going to be kicking the can down the road. And I'm perfectly fine with Trump. I don't care if they're exact numbers. I mean, would I rather like to see like Kevin O'Leary talking about 400% on China? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, make it 4,000%, a million. I don't know. I don't care. 6 million. Who cares? At this point, just we have to fix the thing. And the thing is that China is taking advantage of the U.S.'s consumerism and also complete theft of IPs that is never upheld. And there was I think China issued a summary of what they would concede to and uphold on their end. And one of them was maintaining the international IP legalization or legislation, however that works, but they don't uphold it in the first place, right? Because we have IP theft all over the place. You know what I'm talking about when I say that? It's like they don't care. So
yeah, where we ship products out there to be manufactured, and then they just copy them and start doing it themselves. Yeah,
yeah,
like that's what Temu is.
Yeah, tariff Temu. Temu needs to go the way of the dinosaur. I've never used Temu, never will. Alibaba can kick cans too.
You know, it's funny. I actually bought a recliner off of Temu. I can't sell it. No one wants it.
Is it bad?
It's small. It's a leather recliner, and it's very, very form fitting. And every person I've got to come over to pick it up, they're like, "That's smaller than I thought." And I tried to get as many pictures. Like I wasn't trying to trick anybody. It's a small recliner. But yeah, Temu. It's
you
just
know the
plastic
Asians
garbage.
are just built smaller.
That's true too.
Maybe that's what it's built for. Maybe you need to find an Asian to sell it to.
Not a bad idea. I'll have to sell it in Charlotte. There's no shortage of them there.
Really?
And East Asians, Indians.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have a ton to talk about. Really, I was just kind of wanting to get Rodney's thoughts on the effect of local tariffs, which he basically said, you know, we won't really feel a ton for a little while. At least that's what I got out of it.
Yeah. I do have, I mean, like I kind of made my point on the tariffs, and there was something I wanted to talk about on my Saturday show last week, but didn't get to it. If you want, we can talk about that a little bit now.
Go for it. We got about 20 minutes.
I am going to talk about it tomorrow.
Thank you for joining us. If you're watching, Josh has good takes sometimes.
All the time.
What we got?
We're working yours out.
What we got?
Okay, so I assume you heard about this was like 2 weeks ago. There was a illegal immigrant here who, due to a clerical error, was deported into a maximum security El Salvadorian prison.
And they want to bring him back? Is this the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
So my take on it last week was apparently this morning I heard the Supreme Court said they have to facilitate the president, the Trump administration has to facilitate his return to the United States. When I was going to talk about it last week, that hadn't happened yet. And my point last week was going to be that I'm actually okay with this. Like it is, like in a very human sense, it's tragic that a husband was separated from his wife and child. But the thing is there's going to be a certain element of human tragedy to deporting these people. And yeah, I don't think you can't throw them all in an El Salvadorian prison, but basically I think ultimately this was a good thing where
so
we
it made
need
it to the Supreme Court?
What?
It made it to the Supreme Court?
To my knowledge, yes. I believe it was the Supreme Court that said
what was
Trump had to
their
facilitate his
reasoning
return.
for
I heard it in a
coming
short like news hit. So they didn't articulate the why, but they basically said yes.
All right, so what's your take on it? Go ahead.
So my take was that like obviously, you know, we can't, like it's not ideal that he was deported to a El Salvadorian prison, but the idea that like, you know, he has to go through due process. He was a member of MS-13, which is a gang, and now he's married to a U.S. citizen and has a anchor baby here in the United States. But he was deported anyway. Just the harsh fact of reality is, if we want to protect our nation's sovereignty, this is going to happen. Abuelita is going to get deported. Someone who's been here 20 years, who never hurt anybody. That's the thing, is a vast majority of the illegal immigrants here, other than being illegal, do not commit crimes. The problem that they pose on America is not that they're all criminals or rapists or whatever. That's not the problem. There's economic problems and social fabric problems and cultural problems that they bring with them. They bring their culture here, which did not create America. They're basically, like you said, they're not assimilating. They're setting up satellite communities. They're basically setting up, they're annexing parts of our nation. They're coming here and working on farms And basically, the area they're given like land on the farm to live, and they set up
Last year,
like
criticizing
Mexican places. Oh,
Go ahead. Keep talking.
they're setting up like satellite states, like colonies almost in America, where you don't speak English. There, it's everything's written in Spanish. There's a road in Charlotte, and this is North Carolina. This is 2 hours from here. There's a street in Charlotte that when I grew up, it was as American as apple pie. Now all of the stores on it have all of their store names are in Spanish. An entire area of town is now just a Spanish-speaking part of town. They're coming here and they're changing the nation. And this matters because their culture, their heritage did not and cannot produce America. The more we lose ourselves to immigration, the more America will just become Mexico
All right.
or El Salvador or whatever.
Supreme Court says Trump admin must facilitate release of man wrongly deported to El Salvador prison. This is MSNBC, so it's probably going to be skewed a little bit. Let's see if they give a reason why. Well,
Yeah, let's watch
I
it.
wonder if this will come through. Error code? I guess not. Okay. Can I make this bigger? No, I can't read
So
that.
facilitate the release of a Maryland man who was wrongfully deported to an El Salvadorian prison. I mean, I understand him being let out of prison in El Salvador, but does it say he must return to the United States? Because that's where I think that's not our problem.
Let's see. Let's keep reading. Court partially granted and partly rejected an emergency request filed by the Justice Department contesting judges over. Wow, that's not even American. B retreat. Yeah. Okay, so he's not American to first start with. From a prison in El Salvador. If he belongs more in El Salvador than he does America. We can start there.
Agreed.
Where he was sent March 15th along with men alleged to be Venezuelan gang members. Well, does he look like a Venezuelan gang member? That might be something we, if you got a little bit of darker skin and you got a ton of tattoos, I mean, at this point, I'd rather be safe. And the hardship comes with it, like you said, Josh. I mean, you just got to suck it up. But I'd rather my son and wife be safer.
Yeah, and that's the point. Is like this idea that like there's 50 million of them here. There's not 50 million rapists. There's not 50 million murderers. The problems that they bring with them are more than just money, are more than just crime and whatnot. I think America was built by Americans for Americans, and it should stay that way. I mean, I think for us to be completely invaded by the third world, it's wrong for us to wish to oppose that.
Correct. The decision means the administration does not immediately have to try to return Garcia to the United States because the judge-imposed deadline has already expired, but it should be prepared to share what it can concerning the steps it has taken and the prospect of further steps. The unsigned decision. Why are my eyes watering trying to read this? It's so small. Yeah, so I mean, they don't have to come back, or they don't have to bring him back, rather. But it does, I guess, raise a little bit of a question of how much authority does Trump have if judges can just issue blanket return policies?
This is why you and I propose basically the word dictator is pretty harsh, but more of a monarch, where this checks and balances system seemed like a good idea 250 years ago. But the thing is America, like the people, the nation itself, is not what it used to be. When you have,
that's objectively true.
Yeah, when you have when you basically, America has become a multicultural society, the people come here and they do not assimilate. They do not assimilate. The only level of assimilation you've seen is basically from the Irish and the Italians. And even then, you still see like cultural pride in their stuff.
It took the Italians over 100 years to even try to assimilate.
Exactly. And even still, you go to Brooklyn and they go to, I mean, it's different than like, they're different than Italy Italians. But that's the point, is it like it took 100 years and all that became was they're a different kind of American. You know what I mean? They're Italian American. Cultural assimilation for Nigerians.
They're a different kind of Italian.
Yeah. But I would say they're American. Like, I would say Italian Americans are American. Not quite in the same way that like Dutch Americans or English Americans, Norwegian
Americans. I guess
Americans.
It would depend on the sector of Italians that we're talking about, right? Because the mob never assimilated. That's why they existed.
No, I get that, but like I'm talking about like I'm from Brooklyn, like that guy. That's American. That's New York.
Yankees aren't American. Next.
Oh, come on.
You know who's not
as
American?
As annoying as the I'm from Boston. That's part of America. It's Yankee America, it's America.
People that shit on the South, specifically on the Civil War, are un-American.
Nah.
Yes.
I don't think so.
Yes, they absolutely are.
I think it depends on what level of crapping
They're
on them
either
they're
un-American
doing.
or they're completely, willfully ignorant.
I think it's mostly that. It's mostly the latter.
Okay, they're retards. I can take that.
Now, I do think
they're
that
retarded Americans. Hyphenate that one.
I do
Retard
think
American.
that this obsession with the Confederacy from the South, like, let's move on, guys.
Yeah, it's been a few years.
Yeah, like there's some of the like here's the thing. People wave the Confederate flag.
I don't think so.
People waving the Confederate flag, to me, it's a LARP.
Josh.
It's not that it's not about
Turn around, Josh.
I know. You were was it right there? You were concerned about that being in the show for a little while.
I was worried about your help from it.
I mean, I don't care. That's like I don't have a problem with the American flag.
I mean, why would you fly a Betsy Ross flag?
I don't know.
Well, it's a part of your heritage. I mean, that is what has built this country. And you can say that the South were traitors or whatever you will. I would say that Lincoln was a tyrant. See, these are two separate things. I would say the Southerners, the Confederates, were more American than the Union were.
And it's nuanced.
We don't have to have this debate.
I'll go so far as to say it's nuanced. It's not quite as simple as North good, South bad.
North good, North bad, South good. That's
or it's not quite as simple as that. but I did. So we're meeting in the middle here, where I think like
I'm not meeting you anywhere.
The North crapping on the South, that's gay. That's un-American.
Yes.
But the South being like, why is everyone so mean to us? Let me wave my flag. That's also
the South
gay.
will rise again. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean I loosely agree with you. I think there is a position to where we can kind of move forward and take everything from that and apply it moving forward, and we don't need to necessarily go back directly to that and for that. But I do think, it's like in life. If you have enough jobs, if you work under enough people, that you find leaders that you like and leaders that you don't like. And even the ones that you like have some flaws to them. And you kind of take as you will from the good and the bad and try to build yourself that way. And I think there's plenty of aspects to take from the North and the South in that regard. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I don't think there's anything even wrong with having pride in the South specifically during the Civil War. I just think at times it borders on team sports to the point of irrelevancy, if that makes sense.
I agree with that.
Like, what's the guy's name? The guy who was burning Plantation. Who what's his famous name? Do you know who I'm talking about? Ken was talking about him. Like, was it Shirley or something? Do you know who I'm talking about? There's some infamous Northern general who was just like going town to town, like setting fires.
Yeah, I mean, he basically burned down North and South Carolina and parts of Georgia.
Yeah, what was his name?
I don't remember.
I can't remember, but like, it's okay to say that he was a bad guy.
I'm not a Civil War expert.
A little vindictive.
But I know a little bit. You can make me Google it.
I want to say Shirley or like Templeton. It was this very old sounding Sherman. Thank you,
Did
James
Sherman
Parham.
Yeah, there you go.
Sherman. Something Sherman. Yeah, he.
Oh yeah.
He was infamous for like burning down towns in the South. Innocent, like not military bases, like towns with women and children.
Well,
in them.
he burned plantations. I mean,
Yes.
he burns people's homes.
Yes. It's okay to say that was, especially with the rules of engagement.
Well, again,
the
this is what
time.
we're looking at, and you can apply this across the board. The North was a lot less moral than the South was, even though they were fighting against slavery, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what's always portrayed as, kind of he destroyed Columbia, a lot of North Carolina, a lot of South Carolina, and eastern Georgia. I mean, he wiped the entire state, essentially.
To the South's credit, there's a YouTube channel for people watching at home called Leather Apron Club, and he does a very good video about talking about like the Civil War and how it actually, what it originally started about was trade and commerce between the North and South, and tariffs. Like I believe it was tariffs and embargoes being implemented on the from the North to the South. And that's actually what started the Civil War. I believe it was the Civil War, or was it the Revolutionary War that started in Charleston?
Can you bring it up on here? It's right.
I
here.
believe it
Hold on,
was.
hold on, hold on.
I was just in Charleston, and I was talking about this.
I don't think it's on camera. Where's the Rodney screen at?
I think he's 3.
Boom. Let me see.
It's kind of hard to see.
Yeah, it was Charleston.
Yeah. So, and actually, how that basically the war raged on for so long that the North and the South were both demoralized. They're like, are we really going to fight and die over like free trade amongst our own nation? So the narrative changed to slavery. And not to say that wasn't somewhat of part of it from the beginning, but yeah, the narrative was not that from the beginning, and it changed about halfway through the war. And it was originally a war fought over free trade and tariffs against the South from the North.
Yeah, on top of it was built on top of states' rights also, because they were trying to. Lincoln was a tyrant. And they were trying to cull power from the states because they were the industrial center, where the South was agrarian more so. But that image is it's called Day One. It's the Charleston Battery. It's got Fort Moultrie, it's got everything over there. Anyway, but yeah, no, that was Charleston where it started, and maybe we need to find us a little Civil War historian.
Man,
Bring him in here. That'd be fun. You know one?
Yeah.
Let me get a hold of him, not through you.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Oh, but yeah. So go watch Leather Apron Club. He's got a good video about that if you're interested in the North-South dynamic.
Well,
I'll be honest though. I think I'm not as well read on the Civil War as the Revolutionary War. I like that one a little better.
Neither. I mean, I have a lot of Civil War books. I've just never parsed through them. My grandma gave them to me. Maybe I do need to read through them. I mean, I have a general understanding, but...
Do you know that guy,
I'm partial.
James Parham, the guy who...
Nope. I don't think so. Maybe I do.
Thank you, James, for helping us out with the Sherman thing. So yeah, you get it. With all wars, there's nuance.
Parham.
Parham or Parham, not Parham. He lives in Latta.
Okay.
South Carolina boy.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to say on the...
We need to get
kind of got on the Civil War
thing.
thing.
I don't know how... Tariffs got us on the Civil War?
Yeah. No.
We over here just talking now.
What happened? Yeah, how'd that come up? I don't quite remember. Dang, it's already been an hour?
Yep.
That went by. That was like the quickest feeling. I feel like it's only been 30 minutes, but I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, tariffs utilized as a stranglehold on brothers is not good, which I think is what happened there. Yet tariffs used on China is good, or retaliatory tariffs that we're being tariffed from other people for, like.
Mm-hmm.
People that advocate fair trade advocate against tariffs, yet someone that advocates fair trade would advocate for retaliatory tariffs, where I would just advocate for tariffs across the board because
And here's something I want to say about the subject, which it's kind of irrelevant now because the stock market has bounced back a little bit. I mean, it's in huge flux right now because of the whole tariff situation. But when it like took the huge crash last week, I had a coworker, she's 23 years old, and she asked me, she goes, "So can you explain like why this is bad?" And I go, "It's not. It's not bad for you or me. Like, do you own stock? Then don't worry about it. It does not like you there. And the reason they're trying to make it look like a bad thing because and who do I mean by they? The media. Who owns the media? People that own a shitload of stock. It's like that's something that I'm going to talk about a little bit tomorrow. But it's basically a lot of the pressures on Donald Trump when it comes to the tariffs are from his donors, because the donor class, they're wrapped up in the stock market. They're wrapped up in services, not so much goods. So he's getting pressure from the very people that helped him win and the people that really have the power, because they are the ones being negatively affected. That's the thing about tariffs. The tariffs at the end of the day help the working class and middle class Americans and hurt the uber rich, the uber wealthy. And by hurt, I don't mean like, it just means they're going to take a pay cut and it's going to redistribute the wealth from them back into the middle class, which is why they're coming out and saying this is the worst thing ever. People that don't understand the stock market are freaking out because they're being told to.
Right. Well, that's how they operate. They have they have to wait for the TV to tell them what to do, and then they just go with it that way. But yeah, a large portion of it is just the consolidation of wealth at the top, not just millionaires and billionaires, as Bernie likes to say, but just from an age perspective, where these people have been told their entire lives to save for retirement, and then throw it in the stock market and gamble it all away. That's what this is. The stock market is essentially a gambling operation, and people are losing their minds because they might lose 3% on a 401k that they're up 400% on, right? Mm-hmm. And so, dude, if you work your entire life just to retire a little bit early, it's like, why? Like, I don't understand that. Like, I've never planned on retiring. Not that I don't have any retirement, but that I've never planned on retiring. Mm-hmm. The people that retire, well, we've talked about this.
Yeah.
The people that retire just go back and start working mild jobs that high school kids could work just because they need something to do.
They start working low-level security jobs, just stuff to keep them occupied because they get bored. I mean, like people, the average age that people, what is it, like 85, 90 now where people are passing away? That's still a good nearly like 30 years where you're just not doing anything. That's a long time.
That was the people arguing for raising the rate of or the age of Social Security draw.
I think we should do that.
Yeah, I think that's obvious. James Barron said the market correction is healthy. Retail investors, public markets were not the ones selling those huge blocks of stock. The VIX was ripping. What's the VIX?
I was going to ask you. I don't know what VIX is. Maybe you can help us out, Mr. Parham.
The market correction is healthy. I mean, I wouldn't even call it a correction, man. I mean, I would like to see. Dude, I mean, at the end of the day, dude, I don't care if the entire system crumbles. I do care, but I don't, because I think that's what's needed. I mean, you can't change the people in the system without destroying the system. And the issue is the people in the system necessarily, and not the system itself. Though I do have quarrels with the system itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a volatility. Yeah, I should have known that. Basically,
yeah.
I'm okay with everything up to Haitians breaking down my door to like crack my head open for gold or something. You know, like once we get there, that's where I'm like, okay, the system shouldn't get this bad, but we definitely need an overhaul of how the system works. I mean, the problem with what's going on. I worked in NASDAQ and there was okay.
You want to come on, dude?
Yeah, Mr.
We could definitely talk
Mr.
about
Parham.
The 87
we definitely
crash.
needed a tariff expert and like an economy expert.
That would be cool.
All the ones we're trying to get on keep getting ripped out from under us. You're putting the circuit breakers to kick in. if future crashes were to occur. Our computers could not keep up with the volume of trades at Friday to Monday.
That would be cool to get a somebody on that was. Where's my mouse go?
Did it disconnect? There it is. There it is.
NASDAQ was totally automated. No trading floor. Yeah, that'd be cool to get you on just to kind of talk about that, kind of go over the 87 crash and how things work back then, I guess, compared to now. It sounds like you're up to date on a lot of this stuff. So let's, I kind of want to just give you my number. Just text me, 843-250-1589. Oh, it's out to the world now, 843-250-1589. We'll line that up, dude. Get you on here and see if we can make something happen. We're about an hour in, Josh, so
I'm ready to call
anything
it.
else you want to talk about?
Nah, I think I'll save a little bit of my points about the immigration thing for my show tomorrow. Plus, we're totally off that now. That somehow became the Civil War, and then all the way back to the economy.
But yeah, check out Josh's show every Saturday, 7 to 9.
7 to 9.
7 to 9 Saturdays, 95.3 live. That's in the PD. Live953.com. There you go. Go check out the Josh Vandernoord show.
Joshua.
Awesome, guys. Yep. Hey, appreciate you sticking around, commenting. We enjoy the engagement, man. It gives us a little something to talk about other than just
we got to get
me
better.
and Josh ripping back and forth over the same conversations that we always have.
That's why I love having Rodney on. Rodney kind of brings out
a little bit extra. Yeah.
He helps us argue better, understand our own points better.
Yep.
Because when you and I are just talking to each other, there's people listening that have no idea what we're talking about. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for the comments. We will be live. I should be good Tuesday 2:30, Thursday 2:30, Friday 2:30. Rodney will be here next week. Do we have anybody lined up for next week?
I don't think so.
Not yet. I think I might work on somebody. And then Mr. Parham, if you want to shoot me a text, we can get that lined up too. That'd be awesome, brother. Thank you for coming by. Give it a like, give it a subscribe, and we will catch you later.